will direct security agencies to ensure cover for TCN personnel to enable them restore power supply in the north. Federal government reaffirms commitment to full implementation of 70,000 naira minimum wage. Stakeholders tasked for urgent upskill of cybersecurity measures to safeguard nation's digital infrastructure. Hello and welcome to the News Desk at 6 on Nta News24. We are reaching you live from Abuja. I am Nta Daniels. President Bola Tinubu has directed the security agencies to provide an immediate, adequate security cover for the personnel of the Transmission Company of Nigeria in order to restore power supply to the northern states currently experiencing power outage. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu disclosed this after briefing President Bola Tinubu on the power supply situation in the north. 17 states of the north are currently in blackout due to the vandalization of the Shiroro-Kajuna transmission line, a major line supplying power to the northern parts of the country.
We've not been able to guarantee security of lives of those that will work there. But Mr. President has assured me that he has also instructed the NSA, the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and Chief of Air Staff to provide the required security for the people that will fix the demolished line.
The minister also speaks on reasons for incessant collapse of the national grid in parts of the country.
You said 3 times. The grid actually was disturbed one time, and we deliberately shut it down the second time because of the explosion of the transformer at the Jeba plant. Before this, the last disturbance on the grid was about 4 months ago, which meant that we have been managing the grid. Let me tell you, the truth of the matter is we have old infrastructure. We have a national grid that is more than 50 years old. We have a national grid whose transmission lines are weak. The towers are falling. And the substations, the transformers are old. In fact, the transformer that actually exploded in Jeba was 47 years old. We've been trying to revamp this, to change them, but they cannot all be changed overnight. So it's like you're having a rickety car. You'll be expecting breakdown once in a while. What we continue to do is continue to manage the grid to prevent frequent occurrence of the grid disturbance until we're able to completely overhaul the grid itself. Then we'll have reliable grid. Secondly, we are working on establishing what is called a super grid, which is a backup or failover optional grid. If the national grid has a problem, there will be an alternative route through which power can be transmitted.
The federal government has expressed satisfaction with responses of some state governments who have announced their new minimum wage, and following the declaration by the federal government's Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, who was in the State House to discuss state affairs with President Bola Tinubu, was a significant member of the tripartite committee on the national minimum wage. While reiterating federal government's commitment to the new pay benchmark, the SGF urges the subnationals to ensure implementation.
We're very satisfied with it, and some state governments have started implementing. Others have even gone beyond 70. So I believe that there's no problem with that whatsoever. We applaud those who have started. Those who have not started, we just want to appeal to them to start the payments.
The Northern Governors Forum, in collaboration with traditional rulers, have resolved to work closely with the federal government to end the ongoing power outages in the north. Mohammed Omar Ojinge reports that the chairman of the forum, Mohammed Inowayaya, during their meeting in Kaduna, says the governors will also take advantage of the compressed natural gas (CNG) initiatives as well as the livestock development projects to drive economic growth and improve the well-being of their people.
The northern governors and the custodians of the cultural heritage of the region, one by one, arriving for another meeting to address the challenges facing the north. It began with the host governor, Ubasani, and the Northern Governors Forum Chairman Muhammad Inwayaya setting the tone for the discussions.
We must work with the federal government to ensure that fiscal policies are sensitive to the realities of the day. As we speak today, most of our northern states are in darkness due to vandalization of electricity transmission infrastructure. This not only underscores the vulnerability of critical infrastructure, but also the need to build additional transmission lines.
Let me use this opportunity to commend our dear President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for reinvigorating the war against terrorists, bandits, the establishment of a joint military command and launching of Operation Fansanyama are clear demonstrations of the federal government's commitment to decisively tackle the multidimensional challenges of insecurity confronting the North.
Then the Sultan of Sokoto and the Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa shared their experiences, emphasizing the need to strengthen cooperation among the northern leaders as well as all stakeholders involved to effectively address the issues.
One point I didn't hear was the establishment of the Almajiri and out-of-school children commissioned by the federal government, which we 100% supported, and the leader of that team had already been with us and we've discussed. I think we must include it in what we are going to discuss because the issue of out-of-school children and Almajiri is a very sore problem to all of us.
For us, cooperation is very, very key and very critical to our success. By working hand in hand, we can overcome the challenges before us and pave the way for a better northern Nigeria. It was in this vein that the Armed Forces of Nigeria recently rejigged its operation in the Northwest with the launch of operationalization of Joint Task Force Operation Fansanyama.
It is expected that at the end of their deliberations, the leaders will come up with an alternative ways of solving the problems. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umarajinki, Nta News.
The National Assembly has expressed strong commitment towards enacting legislation that will guarantee greater inclusion of women in governance structure in Nigeria. Speaker, House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas gave this pledge at the International Legislative Dialogue on Women in Nigeria, organized by the House Committee on Constitution Review. National Assembly correspondent Mitaire Ikpen reports.
Women representation in governance in Nigeria has been low despite their population and influence across various sectors. The National Assembly, for instance, currently has only 20 out of 469 seats occupied by women. Speakers at this legislative dialogue on women and constitution amendment process attribute the situation to perception and institutional barriers which must be dismantled.
If we trust women to shape our homes, nurture our own families, and educate our children, we must also trust them to contribute to shaping our nation's future. I have directed the Constitution Review Committee to focus on reforms that promote gender equity and provide additional or reserved seats for women in our legislative bodies.
We must ensure that the national and state houses of assembly are inclusive and welcoming to women.
Just as justice is blind, so too must our laws, appointments, and opportunities be gender neutral.
There is indeed no shortage of intelligent, ambitious, and capable women potential leaders in Nigeria, but multiple obstacles hinder their leadership aspirations and candidacy.
Reflecting on constitution amendment antecedents, participants stressed the need for state legislatures to key into the resolve of federal lawmakers to guarantee inclusion for women in elective and appointive positions.
Our commitment is essential for driving the change that women in Nigeria so rightly deserve.
Thank you for leading that conversation, Mr. Speaker and Deputy Speaker, around dedicated quotas for women.
We hope that after today's conversations, we will go back with stronger legislations and stronger gender policies that will be specific.
The event climaxed with a statement of agreement to support constitution amendments that will promote special seats for women in national and state assemblies, as well as gender equity in the Federal Character Commission. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, Nta News.
The Office of the National Security Advisor has convened a meeting of stakeholders to strengthen the country's ability to protect its digital infrastructure from emerging threats. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the application of digital technology has heightened the vulnerability of digital assets in the country.
Nigeria's digital infrastructure faces a range of cyber threats and attacks. Aside from threats to private computers and mobile devices, telecommunication and banking networks are also subjects of large-scale attacks.
We have strengthened our resolve to effectively confront these threats. This workshop provides the platform for us to jointly develop the roadmap for the implementation of the initiatives spelled out in the executive order.
In 2023, more than 14 billion naira was lost to breaches to digital infrastructure.
These are only figures reported to the NCC. These figures illustrate not only a direct financial burden, but also an extensive impact on our services, economy, and national security.
In addition to bolstering cyber resilience, the forum is focused on strengthening stakeholders' ability to physically protect critical infrastructure.
The armed forces are committed to take the challenge and work with the Office of the National Security Advisor on whatever resolution is being reached and whatever strategies have been developed.
It is Mr. President's strategy, policy, and determination to improve the power sector, because that's what all these things sit on.
When a critical information infrastructure is being cut off, you cannot talk to anybody, you cannot even book your flight, you cannot travel, you cannot do anything. So that is how bad it will be if these things happen. The expectation is to work together, whole of government and whole of society approach. It is all of us here together that can deal with it.
The bulk of efforts is on protecting 13 critical national infrastructure. Just like the popular saying, security is everyone's business. This platform stresses the need for collective responsibility towards the protection of critical government infrastructure and information, and also the adoption of a whole of a society approach. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, Nta News.
Have you ever received an urgent request from a friend, colleague, or relative asking for financial assistance? While it might seem genuine, cybercrime experts, however, warn that taking a moment to verify could protect you from becoming a victim of cyber criminals. Good Morning Nigeria experts emphasize that combating cybercrime in Nigeria requires not only enhanced security measures, but also widespread public awareness. Lydia Sampson reports.
Being cyber aware is crucial to navigating the enormous opportunity provided online through the internet. These expert says will also arm vulnerable internet users to identify risk factors and suspicious unsolicited messages from cyber criminals.
So for you to be a cyber expert or cyber investigator, you must have acquired the skills, that will enable you to navigate in your investigations.
Don't just connect to any network, because somebody might just make that network available to lure you in order to have access to your banking codes and all. Some people even know the dangers involved and they still go ahead and do it.
Parents must also educate their children who use internet for educational purposes to be aware of the risk factors and not chatting with unknown persons or providing personal or family details.
You tell your children, be careful when crossing the road. You tell them, if you go somewhere and you see trouble coming, you move, you know.
Try to avoid it.
So you have to also empower them, because at the end of the day, whatever your child does, especially for a man, for example, they bear your name.
Developing a dynamic ecosystem for everyone to take responsibility to make the cyberspace secure for all users, the guests say, must be prioritized. They suggested having a societal conversation to figure out how social media can be monitored, drawing boundaries. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, Nta News.
This is the News Desk on Nta News24. We have more reports, but after the break.
My administration took over leadership of our country 16 months ago at a critical juncture. The economy faced many headwinds and our physical security highly impaired. We found ourselves at a distant crossroad where we must choose between two paths: reform for progress and prosperity, or carry on the business as usual and collapse. We decided to reform our political economy and defense architecture.
Welcome back. In a digital age where security meets innovation, a new chapter unfolds at the heart of Nigeria's borders. A select group of Nigeria's immigration service officers stand ready to shape the future of border control. Victor Azo reports that the message of the Minister of Interior was on vigilance, duty, and the promise of a safer tomorrow.
More than 200 candidates, these officers of the Nigeria Immigration Service, have undergone rigorous training in API PNR technology, Advanced Passenger Information and Passenger Name Record, that is. It's a system that analyzes data from travelers before they even set foot in the country, helping to identify potential risks and improve border management.
The large responsibility is on you now. The confidence that's been given to you, you have to justify it.
From digital gates in Abuja to bustling ports of Lagos, the Command and Control Center monitors every move. The Minister of Interior, Olubomi Tunjojo, is therefore calling on the personnel to be alert, as each data point is a story, a potential threat, or a chance to make travel safer.
This is a scheme where there is no margin for error. This is a scheme where you cannot guesswork. This is a scheme where you have to be mentally alert and you have to be ready to sacrifice all for the sake of our fatherland.
As the nation's security landscape evolves, these officers of the Nigeria Immigration Service stand as the vanguard of a new era where data is the key and vigilance is the watchword. In Abuja, Victor Azu, Nta News.
Military religious institutions must strive to promote mental resilience and emotional well-being among troops to help soldiers cope with stresses of combat and military life. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuarid Labaja, made this known in a message to participants of the Directorate of Islamic Affairs Nigerian Army Annual Training Conference at the Army Headquarters Officers' Mess, Abuja. Defense correspondent Olajide Bello reports.
While they toil day and night performing their constitutional responsibility of defending the nation's territorial integrity, the Nigerian Army, led by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuarid Labaja, cater for the well-being of personnel for optimal performance in the discharge of their duties. This time around, the Directorate of Islamic Affairs is charting a new course by imparting Quranic principles and prophetic wisdom to strengthen warrior ethos among troops. The position of spiritual leaders and advisors in the Nigerian army cannot be overstressed given the enormous challenges of uplifting the morale of troops and equipping them with the required tools that would enhance the spiritual virtues of officers, soldiers and their families.
This reinforces the need for us all to be better prepared with new ideas to effectively analyze information in support of combat troops, a role in which Imam play a crucial part. By providing moral guidance, emotional support, and fostering resilience,
the Directorate of Islamic Affairs, in conjunction with Nigerian Army School of Islamic Affairs, have been up and doing in this effort, in line with world best practices, to have a well-informed, highly intellectual, and decent imam for the army.
The theme for the training is enhancing Nigerian army personnel effective performance through authentic Islamic teachings and warrior ethos within a joint environment. Olajide Bello, Nta News.
And the Nigerian Customs Service at Adamawa Taraba Command has intercepted smuggled petroleum motor spirit PMS worth over 71 million naira in the border areas. The success was as a result of intensified efforts by the command to rid the country of smuggling and other unwholesome activities. Rehanu Bala reports.
The enforcement unit of the Nigeria Customs Service Adamawa Taraba Command between August and September this year has been able to seize 1,115 of 25-litre and 26 drums of 220 litres of PMS across the border areas between Nigeria and Cameroon Republic. Other contraband items seized by the command during the months under review include over 200 bags of parboiled rice, second-hand clothing, as well as 3 vehicles used for conveying the items.
We will not relent in this fight against illegal trade until we bring smuggling activities to ground zero in Adamawa and Taraba states. We are working towards a safe Nigeria where smuggling activities will be seen and identified as a devil that everybody would not like to associate with.
The command charged its officers to remain resolute in the task of addressing the menace of smuggling and other acts detrimental to the economy and security of the country. In Yola, Rayanu Bala, Nta News.
The Association of Water Well Drilling Rig Owners and Practitioners has inaugurated new executives to manage its affairs, with the new president, Professor Ikbola Okunola, pledging to come up with innovations that will take the association to greater heights. Oluse Adeagbo has details.
It's the unending quest of the 3 tiers of government to provide potable water for the populace, but meeting demand of the growing population requires partnership.
Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Association of Water Well.
The new executives of the Association of Water Well Drilling Rig Owners and Practitioners are now seemingly on the same page with government to meet this target, but not without a caveat, which is not compromising the required standards. A feat the association believes is achievable if members are united.
In fact, all the SDGs of United Nations, out of the 17, 11 are directly or indirectly attached to water. Therefore, this association is the most prime association you can think of in Nigeria. And that's why our focus is how do we make this water accessible to people through groundwater. Because for groundwater development, you need less treatment, cheaper to access, always available every time of the year, with little economic evaluation, unlike surface water.
The outgoing president, Michael Ale, who was in the saddle for more than a decade, wants more collaboration with relevant water authorities, especially government agencies, to address crises in the nation's water sector.
For the incoming executives, I think they have their duty to make sure that all members are professionally endowed and they have more of building capacity of members where they feel they need one.
So which I know that this is going to help the industry, especially the administration of Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Drop, a body of practitioners dealing with management and supply of underground water resources for sustainable impact, was formed in 2014 to foster a relationship between government and private sector to ensure access to clean water in the country. In Abuja, Olusheye Adeagbo, Nta News.
And that concludes the news desk at 6 on Nta News 24. Thank you for watching. I am Nta Daniels.